going with it. I'm focusing more a little bit around removing the noise. There's a lot of noise. You can take that for what it's worth. There's a lot of noise, and following last week's team meeting around how do I help you kind of ignite and embark on 2026 is how do we eliminate or remove the noise? Because if you get too caught up in um, the noise will create distractions for you that don't serve a purpose of productivity. A lot of themes on noise today. Sound good? All right, so here we go. Mission, vision, values, beliefs, and perspectives. A handful of things to point out for the group. Um, at a time when noise, on the theme of noise, I challenge you to communication, seek first to understand. Ask questions, seek opposing viewpoints, whether it's a tough transaction, whether it's opposing political views, whether something's going on within your community, seek first to understand. It's an important principle to live by, and the judgment to it is really the thing that we're trying to eliminate in order to help you figure out the productivity focus of where it is that you want to go and what you want to do. Now, having said all that, I'm going to lead with this because next week is Martin Luther King Day on Monday. And if you haven't been paying attention to what's going on in just national politics, there's a lot of noise. And the noise can be healthy and the noise can be unhealthy. And I say that from a standpoint is I would urge you to think about how you have peers who might have opposing viewpoints on what's going on in the world and embrace the idea and the concept of come from a place of love and understanding to understand what is going on in the world. You will serve clients who have differing viewpoints from you. And I share these two reminders because A, I think about them a lot, and B, I think they're incredibly important. But people fail to get along because they fear each other. They fear each other because they don't know each other. They don't know each other because they have not communicated with each other. And in a time and place when there's a lot of noise going on in the world right now and a lot of heightened energy around what that noise might be or might not be, I'd encourage you to seek first to understand, take a deep breath, get to know one another in a way where you can find common bonds. And it was interesting. I saw a reel this morning, and there was a guy walking in New York City, and you know how like those content creators go up to people and they put a microphone in their face, and they're like, "Hey, what do you do?" And "Oh, I'm a billionaire," or whatever. Okay, fine. But there was an interesting one this morning that I saw, and it said, "Hey, what's the one piece of advice you have for someone for today?" And they said kindness. And they said kindness because everything starts with kindness in order to open up communication. And so, with what's going on in today's world, I'd encourage you to seek kindness, seek first to understand, um, eliminate distractions and noise, but don't be ignorant because there's a lot of people going through a lot of different things and a lot of different feelings and emotions, and that's going to impact us because we're in a people first business. We're in a people first business. So I led with that. Next week's Martin Luther King Day on Monday. Great reminders to live by, just good credence to live through. And yeah, I'd be remiss if I at least didn't bring it up with everything that's going on in the world right now. The other thing, just as a heads up, our offices will be closed on Monday the 19th in observance of Martin Luther King Jr. Day. Also, as a heads up, banks are closed, so be prepared. We always get the questions from a banking perspective of commissions, earnest monies, things like that. It is a federal holiday, so please plan accordingly. And then also because we are closed on Monday, there will be no team meeting on the 20th, and we will pick it back up on the 27th. Make sense?
Yeah.
Cool. All right. With that, a couple other things to point out. I know Jen and Emily are working on year-end 1099s for everybody. You will get one mailed to you directly. I believe you will also have one emailed to you directly. Expect them here sometime in the next 2 weeks. I know a portion of them are already done. If you have moved recently, please notify the MCA's office so that we can get that to you accordingly via the USPS mail. Also, please note we will get you your closed transaction report, all itemized expense reports and deductions reports, and everything will be delivered to you digitally. So you have a Google Drive of all relevant information as it relates to your taxes. For those that file in April, for those that file in October, we will remind you of this again in September. Sound good? Beautiful. All right. Upcoming training and events, handful of things to point out and call out and call to is Ignite is going on. We have roughly 60 plus people that are showing up every week. I'll touch a bit more on Ignite. As a reminder, I mentioned earlier, we are closed on Monday the 19th for Martin Luther King Jr. Day, and then there are no team meetings on Tuesday the 20th. Okay. This morning on Tuesday the 13th, we have a handful of associates who are participating in I call it like a third-party coaching program. Profit starts with pipeline. Come learn from Justin Ippoliti, Becky Thomas, Tony Wendorf, Emily Walzek, and Elizabeth Klug, all around what it is they're thinking about for 2026, how they're building their profit and their pipeline. And it is held this morning at 10:30 a.m. at the Better Business Bureau off of Greenfield Ave. So come and participate and celebrate our peers. Cool. All right. With that, there is a lunch and learn today at noon in the Southwest Training Room on the 13th, all around how Gustavo and the team can help you win and secure more accepted offers today at noon. Continuing the Ignite theme, tomorrow, Dawn Shipley is turning all around how do you take your database and make it into a data bank. Dawn and her husband, Zach, run a great team out of the New Berlin office, and they'll be teaching all around how do they focus on their database in order to drive and create conversion. And then Jay on Thursday will be teaching Profit First. So once you start making money, how do you manage your money most effectively? And there is a model to it in which Jay has followed for a long, long time called the Profit First model in terms of pay yourself first, make sure that you're putting things away for taxes along with other goals. And it's a percentage-based formula across multiple different accounts. And the number one thing that I see in this business is I see people who make $500,000 a year and they can't rub two nickels to make a dime because they don't know what to do with the capital that they earn. A great model to follow. Jay will be teaching that Thursday in the North Shore. Here you can see the rest of the Ignite schedule. Following that, Wednesday, we have Laura Brewster. Next week, Thursday, we have Sergio Dietrich, so on and so forth through the rest of January. As a follow-up, we have Family Reunion coming up in Atlanta, February 21st to the 24th, all around content and influence. That's this year's theme, content and influence. So for those that would like to participate, would love to join you in Atlanta, February 21st to the 24th. And with that, we have a little quick mortgage update for you from the team over at Cream City. Blake, what do these guys need to know?
Hey, good morning, everyone. I'm Blake Early with Cream City Mortgage. This is this week's Mortgage Minutes, and as the name implies, I'll keep this short and sweet. Current rates as of today are right around 6%, which is down from last week and 2 weeks ago, which was like 6.25%. The main reason being is we're kind of in a headline market, meaning whatever the administration says or whatever next data point comes out is what the market's going to do. Last Thursday, there was a tweet that said the government was going to buy $200 billion worth of bonds. And as all you guys know, when bonds go up, that's good for mortgage rates. So that's where we are now. First-time home buyers with excellent credit, we're probably around like 5.75, maybe even a little bit better. And 2026, this will probably be the first year in many where we see mortgage payments actually decline relative to income, meaning wages are sticky, they're staying about the same, and we're seeing these mortgage payments in house values coming down just a little bit. So yeah, recap, it's a great opportunity to refi. Refi rates are about 6%-ish, right around there. Next slide, please, Charlie. And then fun fact, mortgage is actually derived from Old French, meaning dead pledge, because when you're done with the amortization schedule, the pledge is dead. Leave it to the French. Yeah.
Good to know.
That's all I got. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Blake. All right, with that, guys, as I've mentioned before, Lindsay Vranick is currently on maternity leave. So Courtney Lucchesi, who is based out of our Lake Country office, is helping us take over the marketing concierge in Lindsay's absence. And Courtney has a few updates for you. Court, what do these guys need to know?
All right. Hi, everybody. Like Charlie said, Lindsay is out. She just had her baby in December, so we are still fulfilling all of your marketing requests. With Lindsay out, I know she has done quite a few things personally with people for branding. So if you are still looking for some branding updates or restarts, you can reach out to myself or Allie. Her email and my email are on the screen there. But you can also just search our names as long as your Google contacts are up to date. Everything else is kind of status quo. So if you're going into the marketing concierge and requesting something, it will still go to that KW MKE marketing at gmail.com, and someone on the back end will be fulfilling that while I am on team meeting. We do have a team of people that are with me as well. Amber helps out, Bella, Allie, Willis sometimes. So there are multiple people. The best way to get that fulfilled quickest will be submitting that request via our website. If you head to the next slide, just some reminders of what you can do. I know a lot of people like to do refreshes in the new year. So, reminders, we can do business cards, email signatures, listing flyers, brochures. If you need more yard signs, riders, all of that is possible. And if nothing or no buttons on there are going to fulfill your need, there is a custom request button. Feel free to submit that, and we will get going on those as they come in to the marketing concierge. Some reminders on all of those in the next slide. Just to give you, again, we have a lot of new people, new faces. So for those personalized and branded marketing materials, it's going to be tailored to your branding. We're going to keep it professional, but we're also going to make sure that KW logos are on there. We do our best to get it to you as quickly as possible. With Lindsay out, we are one person down, but we're still trying to keep up with that 2 business day requirement for on our side. With custom projects, we do ask for a little bit of flexibility depending on what that lift may be. But all your digital marketing assets to create that noise, seeing as that's the theme of the meeting, those are free. A lot of people who have onboarded recently have asked what that costs. That is at no cost to you. So going in and requesting that is free. We will get that to you again in 2 to 3 business days, depending on the request. And then there are print options depending on where you're located. You can ask someone on the leadership team who we recommend. Each area kind of has a printer that we go to, but we won't print anything unless we get an okay from you or an approval. So make sure that you're checking your email after that final proof has been sent so that we can get it over to the printer and that it can get printed for you and it's in your hands quick. Lastly, for what's new in the marketing concierge, we do have new 2026 buyer and seller guides. We have refreshed them. They're pretty clean. And we can customize them if you'd like certain pages in them. But for the most part, similar content as what was in 2025. We've updated it and have updated stats as well. So if you're wanting to keep your 2025 buyer seller guides, totally fine. We can update that stats sheet, just that one pager, to reflect the 2025 stats for the year of 2026. So those are available. Feel free to request those in the marketing concierge, and we will add in your branding, your pictures, and logos if you have them. But that is all for now.
Love it. Courtney, appreciate all the guy that you guys do to deliver custom tailored support for our group. And know, guys, that they're there to support you on anything you might need. All right. With that, if you're not paying attention, I need you to pay attention because here is where a lot of noise is showing up. And I have Chief Herbert on the line to tell us about the noise and what we're doing to help you mitigate your risk.
Good morning. The topic that we're covering this morning is related to the Code of Ethics, specifically related to social media. So agents need to be more mindful about what you're posting on your social media pages. This not only includes your business page, but also your personal page. We've seen an increase in complaints come through the DSPS and GMAR related to agents talking negatively either about their clients or other agents. Not only are DSPS complaints time consuming to put together your response, but they can also lead to mandatory ethics training, monetary fines, or even a suspension of your license. So next slide, I'm going to kind of cover what those 2 articles are in the Code of Ethics. So in the preamble, and this is just something that we all should just be living by, is the term realtor has come to connote competency, fairness, and high integrity, resulting from adherence to a lofty ideal of moral conduct in business relations. So just kind of an overarching summary of how we should be conducting ourselves in public through social media, to ensure that you're not finding yourselves at the forefront of a DSPS complaint. So a reminder of Article 1 of the Code of Ethics. It's often considered the golden rule of real estate professionalism. The core of this article is that realtors must protect and promote the interests of their client at all times. So talking negatively about a client, even without naming them, can damage their reputation, weaken their negotiating position, or reveal sensitive details about their motivations. And then Article 15 is related to speaking about other agents. So the Code of Ethics requires a high standard of professional courtesy to protect the reputation of the profession as a whole. Realtors shall not knowingly or recklessly make false or misleading statements about other real estate professionals, their business, or their business practices. So I know that there are other agents that you do not necessarily agree with, that maybe you don't get along with, but it is never appropriate to speak negatively about another agent, whether it's in public or through social media. It's not tolerated. So we need to hold ourselves to a higher standard and ensure that we are abiding by the Code of Ethics and always working with that high integrity. And again, if you do those things, you won't find yourself talking to me about a DSPS complaint or a GMAR ethics complaint.
Now, I'm going to jump in here and say this. Some of you are familiar with the podcast or the book Mel Robbins. Let them. Let them. Some of your peers, and there's specifically someone on the east side with a purple brand, can't help themselves. Let them. Okay? The rate of incidents in terms of infighting that happens, let's just call it for what it is, on Facebook and Instagram, is almost disgusting. And the way you respond to it, remember, everyone's watching you at all times. They see your responses, they see who and how you interact. Trust me, when I engage with someone, especially at another company, because I'm trying to check them on their stuff, I do so with incredible intention and purpose, is to not create undue negative energy or attention. Sometimes, and I will just say this from my own perspectives, people need to be checked. Cool. Let your leadership check them. But don't engage, because the engagement creates more intensity to a fire that doesn't need to burn any hotter. I'll say that. Okay. The second piece of it, and it's really interesting, and this has nothing to do with anybody within our industry, but someone put this on my radar recently. If you look at the statistics, and there was a Wall Street Journal article on this across social media platforms, the rate of engagement and incidents right now on LinkedIn has actually never been higher in its platform's history. What do you notice about LinkedIn? No one goes off on some crazy bullshit rant. Excuse my French. It's a very highly engaging, highly positive network. My challenge to you is, when you think about tweeting or your keyboard, would you do that on LinkedIn as you would on Facebook or Instagram or Twitter? It's a good rule of thumb to be thinking about, because there is an element as to why LinkedIn's popularity is increasing right now. And it has everything to do with the mindset of positivity and abundance and people supporting each other professionally and personally. Think about it, especially with the noise that's going on right now across our personal lives and professional lives, and some associates across the GMAR who decide to ignite fires and then pour gasoline on fires. Don't be an igniter, and don't pour gasoline on a fire that's already smoldering. Make sense? The rate of incidents on DSPS complaints has gotten higher. And I will tell you, in the background, from a WRA perspective and a Scott Bush perspective, they're so tired of the infighting that they're actually going to make examples of people by coming down harder with the way they're ruling on some of these DSPS complaints. Make sense? I wanted to take a pause and bring that up because there was an incident that happened over the weekend that engaged not anybody in our environment. Well, I think we caught a stray bullet in the whole thing, but that's nothing new. That somebody else at another company took issue with something, and I think personally, and I'll share this out loud publicly, I think it's totally false, and I think they are doing it for their own self-promotion, but that's a whole nother story. Don't engage. And if you have issues with something, come to Kimmy, myself, and we'll step in front. Cool? Kimmy, did I touch on that appropriately?
Absolutely. Thank you.
All right.
And then two quick reminders. This week is this is specifically for GMAR members, the new lockbox training for SentryLock. Again, an email came directly from SentryLock. If you're a member of the Lakeshore Realtors Association, they are not changing lockboxes. So again, this is just specific to GMAR members. And then last but not least, just a reminder again about our compliance helpline. You all have done a really nice job of transitioning to contacting the helpline when you need to speak with one of our brokers. We have our incredible broker, compliance broker leadership here who's manning the line from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. and helping you with all of your compliance questions and contract questions, etc. So continue to use that. And that's all I have this morning.
Sweet. Thanks, Kimmy. Speed kills. That's why we created the compliance helpline. Get you speed of answers quickly. And then reminder, every Monday in January is Q&A. Otherwise, they're turning people to Ignite. All right. I'm going to shift gears on the continuance of noise. I have a few thoughts for you this morning, and then I'm going to finish with a December recap in terms of what happened in December. And I'm going to tell you, well, we'll get into the stats in a sec. But last week I shared with you the day one mindset that Jeff Bezos put out within his shareholder meetings and his whole concept to it. Quick recap to it. The question he gets often is, what is day two? Day two is stasis. Stasis creates irrelevance. Irrelevance creates excruciating and painful decline, followed by an eventual death. The mindset has to become, don't bank on your established reputation to carry you forward. No one cares what you did in the past. It's all about what you do in the future. You have to be hungry, you have to be lean, and you have to act like you have everything to prove and nothing to lose. Everything to prove and nothing to lose. So what does that mean? You have to become customer obsessed because comparison is the thief of joy. Ironically, in terms of following through on the conversation that we just had, most of our peers obsess over the comparison game. That's why I think you see a lot of noise amongst our environment, not our environment, but our industry right now. You have to be obsessed with creating something better before your customers know it. Your best defense in your business is a proactive offense. Okay. Don't wait for the client. You have to be obsessing how do you create the experience 10x better. Otherwise, someone will. Okay. Resist proxies. Process is not the end game. The end game in this business is outcomes. Become obsessed with outcomes and how do you create successful outcomes. Don't get trapped in your systems and models. You have to make high velocity decision makings. Okay. Speed is the competitive advantage in everything you do. Speed, speed, speed. You have to make decisions with 70% of the information, and you have to embrace external trends. Otherwise, you will get forgotten. Okay? You can't fight the trends and lose, or you can fight trends and lose, or you can use them as a tailwind within your business. So my challenge to the group as we embarked on 2026, and more so of a recap from last week, is you have to be a day one powerhouse. Every day you have to wake up obsessed with your customer, moving with lethal speed, attacking the market as if it's our first day on the job. Day one energy is all about rejecting complacency, cherishing innovation, and chasing disruption. Be hungry, inventive, and relentless. Be relentless. It's the art of the chase. Embrace the art of the chase. And you will have a wild 2026. Wild. Now, I'm going to pivot here and go a bit more into noise. Okay. And I want to challenge your thoughts on as it relates to relationships and productivity. Last week in Ignite on Wednesday, I shared a few thoughts on this, and I thought I'd share it with the broader group because it was well received. And I thought to myself, with everything that has gone on in the last 7 days, it's a great reminder for our environment. This is an excerpt from the book Atomic Habits. Nothing sustains motivation better than belonging to the tribe. It transforms a personal quest into a shared one. Previously, you were on your own. Your identity was singular. You are a reader, you are a musician, you are an athlete. When you join a book club or a band or a cycling group, your identity becomes linked to those around you. Growth and change is no longer an individual pursuit. We are readers, we are musicians, we are cyclists. The shared identity begins to reinforce your personal identity. This is why remaining part of a group after achieving a goal is crucial to maintaining your habits. It's friendship and community that embed a new identity and helping behaviors last over the long run. When we talk about cultivating community and cultivating culture, this is the reason for it. The friction in the relationships, and I mean friction in a positive way, the way you interact with each other belly to belly, the way you interact with each other personally, that friction, when you think about it as it relates to how hybrid vehicles charge their batteries, batteries are charged through friction. Same thing with relationships. There's a direct correlation to the relationships you have in this business and the level of productivity. If you really think about it at the highest level, the most productive agents in the industry, look at the top 10, top 20, top 25. What do they all have in common? They have exceptional relationships with their peers. They're highly collaborative. They are seeking to learn. Think about that in terms as we talk about creating a culture of productivity. That's what we're trying to do. Nothing sustains motivation better than belonging to a tribe. It transforms a personal quest into a shared one. That's the journey we're on in 2026. And as we go through periods of time where there's lots of noise within the airwaves, both personally and professionally, it's leaning on the person to the left of you and the right of you in order to help you continue on that shared quest to what your desired outcome is within this business. Now, the second piece of it that I've shared with our group over many, many years, because I think about this concept often, is the question I get: why are some corporations, athletic teams, megachurches, synagogues, religious organizations more successful than others? And the true meaning to it, and this is a great follow-up to the excerpt from Atomic Habits, is small groups. Really, really successful organizations have really powerful small groups within them. And the concept in practice comes from a term within the Jewish faith called Havra. Havra is fellowship, where a small group of like-minded Jews who assemble for the purposes of facilitating Shabbat and holiday prayer services, sharing communal experiences such as life cycle events or Jewish learning. Most Havra place an emphasis on egalitarianism, a school of thought within political philosophy that builds from the concept of social equity, prioritizing it for all people, depending on participation by the entire community rather than top-down direction from the clergy. So as you think about, for those of you who are either individual agents, agents on a team, or agents who run teams, what is your community? What does that look like? How are you creating those relationships inside KW, outside KW, to those that work in other brokerages? Because relationships within this business, not only with your clients, but with your peers, quite frankly, is what fuels your fire in order to achieve something. Because the individual pursuit of doing it on your own, like there's a phrase, I think about this a lot within athletics, right? The lone wolf starves and the packs eat. What does your pack look like? How are you using it? And how are you using it during times when there might be a lot of noise, distractions, or airway or things within our airwaves that are creating distractions to what your ultimate outcome is, which is really healthy interpersonal relationships with your friends and family, really healthy interpersonal relationships with your clients and your database, and really healthy interpersonal relationships with your peers. That is what will sustain your continued discipline towards success in 2026. And so I brought it up as I was thinking a lot over the last 5 to 7 days around what's going on within our world. And I thought to myself, it's a good time to reset as it relates to how we think about our relationships in this business and how we are going to continue to carry forward in order to create productivity. Now, I wanted to share with you a little bit of an excerpt that follows on to this. Okay, and this is more so as it relates to how we think about business and why sometimes some of our peers just don't understand the game that we're playing. And this is a great excerpt from Simon Sinek that I thought I would share with the group. And I got to do one thing that I thought I would share with the group. And here is the thoughts as it relates to how you view time relative to productivity. That's it. How do you organize your resources and your decision making to frustrate your competition, to outlast them within the game of business? because only you define when the game starts and when the game stops. And so you think about it on the time horizon or the continuum of time, where time never starts, never stops, and then say, all right, how am I creating and allocating my resources and decision making in order to frustrate my competition? And so I leave that with you as it relates to the mindset, because I'm very focused on it right now with all the noise that's going on in our world, to say, how do we be hyper focused on what it is that we are playing this game for? You define that, nobody else. You define that. And then how are you leveraging your relationships in order to continue this pathway forward to create the ultimate outcome that you desire within the game that you're playing? Focus on that as you head into 2026. All the distractions will become irrelevant for you. Cool? All right, here's a quick market update for you to finish off on a beautiful Tuesday morning. I'm going to give you the market update for December. I will say this with a caveat. Don't freak out, and I'll explain this here in a second. Okay? In the month of December, new unit inventory was down roughly 7% in December this year versus last year, and down 3% versus December of 23. Okay? Here's what you need to know right up front. We effectively lost 2 weeks of the market in December of 2025. I mean, I can't tell you, I'm not sure I had a friend who worked the last 2 weeks of December of 2025 because of the way the holidays fell with Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Okay. So we lost 2 weeks in the back half of 25. Now, as I remind you, as it relates to
Hi, can I
business,
get a mug for here?
yeah, no problem. As you think about your business and your trends, think about it like this. 1 month is an anomaly, 2 months is a trend. 3 months, we got to pay attention. I think we lost the last 2 weeks of the year effectively as a write-off, but I'm not worried about it because the macro trends are healthy. Okay. So I say that up front because I'm going to go through the rest of this rather quickly. Now, total inventory, interestingly, it was flat this year versus last year effectively, and up 1% versus December of 23. Again, my paying attention to you guys is pay attention to your vital signs as it relates to days on market, your list price to accepted offer ratios, and don't get expired. All of that data will make sense here shortly. When you look at average days on market, we're up about an entire week this year versus last week, and up an entire week December of this year versus December of 23. Okay. Listings are sitting longer. A week feels like an eternity. Okay. It's a meaningful difference. You have to be proactively communicating with your clients at the risk of getting expired. Why? Because in December, there were 806 expired listing inventory units. Granted, most contracts end December 31st, but here's the telling sign. Versus December of last year, it was up 29%, and versus December of 23, it was up 36%. Consumers are telling you they will expire you quickly. Pay attention. And a great opportunity to diversify your lead generation strategies. Okay. Right size expectations, communicate, and price appropriately. Interestingly enough, if you look at September, October, November of this year, it was all higher than the previous 2 years on a month-over-month basis. So, for example, September, there were 745 expired listing inventory units. There wasn't a month in the last 2 years where it was 745. Listing agents, pay attention, because I want you to get the listing, win the listing, secure the listing, sell the listing, because you right-sized client expectations. Okay? We're still dealing with the recency bias of speed of the market. Now, that will likely change come spring, but if you're taking listings in January and February, right-size expectations. Okay? Sales absorption rates, this is the percentage of inventory that goes under contract in a given month. Okay, it was down 10% versus December of last year, down 14% versus December of 23. Again, I think it fell off a cliff because of the last 2 weeks of the month. It was a write-off. The way the holidays fell, it's a real thing. It's a real thing in all businesses. Okay, units that went under contract was down 10% December this year versus last year, and down 14% versus December of 23. Mortgage rates, Blake touched on in a sec or a little bit ago, right? Hovering right around 6.16%. Now, impacts on pricing. This is the one thing that hasn't really changed. Pricing was up 7% in December of this year versus last year on an average, and up 20% versus December of 23. Median was up 3%. versus December this year. In December versus 23, it was up 19%. Prices are still appreciating. Consumers are telling you this is a safe and stable asset. Okay. And when you look at it on a price per square foot basis, December was up 4.5% versus last year and up 12.5% versus December of 23. Again, I would be much more concerned if there was a fall off in the activity that we saw from a listing inventory perspective and units that went under contract. If we also saw pricing correlate to softness in December, and that wasn't the case, which tells you part of it's a timing issue. People are still valuing the asset, and I would expect the spring, as I gave you earlier, to be very robust. Now, here's my grocery store market of the moment script. I didn't change it from November because I thought December was an anomaly. Okay. It's the exact same. Here's exactly what I saw with what's going into the market because I think the overall macro market of the moment script is still very relevant today. And I will remind you as listing agents, remember the reason why people are getting expired is people are getting a bit greedy from a pricing perspective. And we see that within the data of accepted offer, list price to accepted offer ratio, which I'll show you here in a second. So the yellow box is basically the commentary I put into this that says the way the holidays fell for those 2 weeks are what led to consumer decisions. Simply timing, nothing more. There's nothing within the data or global macro trends that would tell us that the market would be off by what it is in December other than the timing of the holidays. Carry on. So here's your accepted offer data of what's winning. I give you this for perspective going back to May of this year so that you guys can understand and you start prepping clients for what could come in spring. These are really good conversations to be having proactively. And also you can see what happened here in December. I've reviewed 91 accepted offers. List price to accepted offer ratio was 98.6%. That's telling us don't get greedy on the front side on price. I think that's what's led to some of our days on market activity. Increased incidence of cash. Again, 33% cash, 67% financed. Usually it's about a 75-25, 70-30. I don't know if that's an anomaly just being in the month of December, what that might be. I'm paying attention to it. Inspection contingencies right now, especially as you're thinking about January and February activity, 56% have had them, 44% had no. You can see that was the biggest variance across the entirety of the year. 29% had inspection thresholds, okay, with an average threshold of 5,200. And interestingly enough, because the softness of the market, co-broke compensation went up again. I'll be paying attention to it as we head into the spring. I think this is a really important chart for you as you think about how you're prepping your clients for what might come of the spring. As you look at the May, June activity and how competitive it was, I would foresee that that would be the same. And also, I think it's very healthy to right-size expectations for those clients that might be listing in January and February. Cool? All of it will be available to you immediately on the KW Milwaukee app, as well as the KW Realty MKE Agent Hub and resources after the meeting. All right. Language of real estate report. I don't know what else to say other than that you guys crushed 2025. This is the data compared to the Metro MLS. We just closed out our books for 2025. And when people ask me what we want to be known for in terms of who we are as a company, I say two things. We are a personal development company that masquerades as a real estate company. We're a personal development company first. And two, we are a culture of productivity. That shows up within the data based on how you guys performed in 2025, and it's absolutely exceptional. Now, perspective's important. I'd share with you this. Metro MLS sent an email out yesterday, and I pulled it for your own perspectives. Last year, the market did $12.3 billion for 31,000 transactions. Now, I want you to correlate those numbers to your own personal goals for 2026. How many listings do you want to take? How many buyers do you want to serve? What's the close volume you want to do? Because perspective's important. Last year, there were roughly 15,676 listings that came to the market. It represented 6.2 billion in listing inventory. Okay. I just quickly looked up this morning. The top 25 agents only accounted for 10% of the total overall transactional closed units, and the top 10 agents only took 4% of the listing inventory. Point being is, going back to the comment I made around the comparison is the thief of joy, there is so much business to be had. And mind you, we are entering in a transactional unit phase, entering out of a phase that was very similar to what it was in 2008, 2009, 2010. But yet you look at that and say, well, there was almost 16,000 listings. Most of you from a goals perspective are trying to get anywhere from 12 to 24 to 50 to 100 to some teams 200. 200 out of 16,000. Some of you are trying to get to 5 million, 10 million, 100 million, 200 million, 300 million out of 13 billion. 13 billion. There's more than enough food at the table for everyone to eat. Focus on you and what you need to do to drive that productivity forward. Make sense? Last thing to follow up on, here's the productivity report final for 2025 as it relates to Southeastern Wisconsin brokerages. You can see congrats to the group at finishing at 15.3% market share in 2025. And I always talk about the culture of productivity versus your peers. Here you can see the latest 12-month trend. And here within the luxury space, we had 23% of the overall luxury inventory, sold inventory in 2025. We sold 1 of every 4 homes in Southeastern Wisconsin within the luxury space, and we sold 2.4x more than number 2. Great statistics to have as you're trying to win more business and increase your price points. And here you can see the latest 12-month trend lines. As I joke, I like graphs that start on the lower left and end in the upper right. Hell of a year for many of you in 2025 in a really tough environment, and yet you didn't feel it. That's the resolve that you guys have. Lastly, I'd share with you, and this is from more of the data, basically saying I'm very bullish on where it is that we are and where it is that we're heading as an industry. Why? Because there is generational transformation happening. There are people that are currently sitting on inventory that will be selling inventory. Remember, last year, the average age of a transaction was 58 years old. And the largest generation within the U.S. labor force is coming of age to entering the market because the average age of a first-time home buyer last year was 37. So you have 2 major generational populations that will soon be transacting, which is where I'm very bullish on the next 5 years. And here was the market predictions I gave you for 2026. With that, I'll leave you with this. Eliminate the noise, focus on your personal development, create a culture of productivity, develop relationships with those that you work with and around, lean into those relationships when times get tough. We're here to serve you. And if anybody needs help or support because there's noise going on within the airwaves, allow Kimmy and I or any of your other leaders to step in front of it for you to remove the element of distractions of productivity. Make sense? That's where we're at, guys. Time to have a beautiful day in Milwaukee. Thanks for showing up.